Hello, beautiful friends. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Rebranding God podcast. You might be listening to this podcast, and if you prefer the video, you can also find this podcast on my YouTube channel, and the link is below this episode. So today you get a solo episode with me, and I'm going to speak about a chapter of my new book called What Would Love Say? And the book is about 8 languages that help us to connect and to heal. Connect and heal ourselves, and also connect and heal others. So think of my book as a higher version of the famous book that was written in the 80s called The 5 Love Languages by Dr. Gary Chapman. And I felt the need to write a new version of the love languages because a lot of us who are on this path of healing or transformation, we are evolving, we are ascending. And as we are evolving, ascending, and growing, we are also asking more in our relationships. It's not that our demands got higher, we have much more needs. But there's a natural evolution in our relationships now. I'm not talking about friendships and also intimate relationships. There's a natural evolution of relationships that we want a more connection. We want authenticity. Everybody's asking for more authenticity, and a lot of people are losing interest in staying in any friendships or relationships where safety is not there, trust is not there, authenticity is not there. So how do we develop languages? How do we speak the languages that can help us, that can help each other to create more safety and trust? Because ultimately that's what we're looking for. Love is not enough to keep relationships together. We can love somebody deeply and still leave the relationship or the friendship because we don't feel heard, we don't feel seen, or there's a constant level of stress in the relationship, there's no coherence, there's no connection. So we say, especially in this physical world that we live, that love is not enough because we need actions. Love, it needs to be interpreted also as a verb. Like, what makes us really feel loved? So one of the love languages in my book is the language number 2. It's presence. Presence to me is one of the highest forms of love. So I'm going to share here, to open this podcast, I'm going to share with you a paragraph. It's the first paragraph of the second chapter of my book. And by the way, the book is not published yet. It's being edited right now. Hopefully in the next 8 to 10 weeks, the book is going to be ready in the market. So the first paragraph under presence as a love language says, our full presence is one of the most precious gifts we can offer to another. To give somebody our full attention is a high expression of love. Presence is to be here now with myself and you. Being in full presence means a relaxed and open heart and a flexible and open mind. There is space inside myself to welcome you and to commune with you. Your presence itself can bring healing into somebody's heart. That is how powerful presence is. And the reason I was motivated to record this podcast, besides wanting to start sharing the love languages of my book, it's about 2 connections I had with 2 very close friends this week. And I was talking to a particular friend and we're sharing a meal, and I was sharing with her why I love spending time with her so much. And one of the reasons is when we are together, we are fully present with each other. And because we are fully present with each other, there is, by default, there is this level of trust, there's this level of vulnerability because we feel safe with each other. So think that what we seeking so much in our relationships these days, especially in this level of higher consciousness, that just being busy with friends or busy with our partners is not enough anymore. We wanted to be seen. We wanted to be heard. So we really seeking safety. And when we feel safe, we can open our minds, we can open our hearts, and just that act itself can be extremely healing. So as I feel safer in my body, I can help others to feel safe, which is something I had to work in my job as a trauma-informed life coach, as a trainer, as a teacher. So we love spending time together because we're fully present and it's refreshing. I want you to think for a second how many people you have in your life, how many friends you think just for a second right now, how many people in your life you have that you can sit down with and you feel fully heard, seen, understood. You just feel they're present, meaning they're not checking their cell phones, they're not looking at their Apple Watches, they're not looking around, they just have their eyes, their full attention, because the qualities of presence, I wrote about this, it's awareness, it's attention, and it's attunement. Being aware of where you are. Are you here right now? Are you fully here with yourself and with another? Attention. Where is your attention? Are you aware about where your attention is? And if you get distracted, are you able to bring your attention fully back to yourself, to your body, and with the beloved? And attunement. Are you attuned with the sensations, with the emotions in yourself, and then attuned with the emotions of the beloved, the person in front of you? So you can kind of, it's like a dance. For example, if I'm speaking to a friend and my attention's there, my awareness is there, I'm attuned, and I sense a change of facial expression in my friend, or I sense a change of tone in her voice, I inquire, hey, what just happened now? Are you okay? So it's a dance, it creates a coherence. So coherence is another word for we are here now, we are connected, or we are incoherent. I feel very incoherent, for example, when I am with friends and they keep checking their cell phones. I don't feel safe anymore. I don't feel heard. I don't feel seen, even though seen and heard are not really feelings, there are perceptions. So if what we're really seeking now in any relationship is safety and trust, we need to have new languages, because those 5 languages that Dr. Gary Chapman taught us in the 80s, they were a great start, but they're not enough for this higher level of consciousness that we are now, where we want deeper connection. We want truth. In fact, truth is chapter 1 in my book. So let's dive into presence. I want to speak first here of presence as a natural state of our hearts. To prove that, think about a baby or a young child in your life. What happens when you're watching a baby or a child? They're not in the past. They're not in the future. They fully engage. If it's a baby, the baby is fully engaged with his fingers or his toes, or with his mom, or with a little toy, or a shining light. The baby is fully present. Same thing with a young child, and they start walking, they playing with this in the sandbox, or they playing with a new toy. They fully present. That's essence, or truth, or true essence is to be present. Is not to be caught in the past or caught in the future, caught in anxiety and caught in depression. We're not time traveling. And there's such a high cost for us when we're this time traveling. First of all, when we constantly traveling between the past and the future, we are switching back and forth, depression and anxiety. Depression being in the past, anxiety being in the future. We in a sense of stress, overwhelm. In other words, our brain is stuck in survival. And if our brain is stuck in survival, that means our nervous system is also in survival. So these are just ways to describe more like how our biology affects our ability to be present. And when we're not present, it costs the quality of our relationships. A lot of clients, when they start work with me and I ask what is the intention of the work, why they want to work with me, why they want to let go of certain patterns, certain behaviors, and 99% of my clients will always request that they want the ability to be more present with their spouses, more present with their children, more present with their co-workers, just present with life. And again, the cost of not being present is the cost of deep connection. And deep connection is something that our world is in needing right now. It's something that our world is really seeking, is deep connections. Most people are getting tired of the superficial conversations, of the superficial relationships. People are getting tired of superficiality because being superficial in a relationship is just another form of being busy. And people are tired of just being busy. People want to experience a rich life, rich relationships. So presence is a fundamental quality, a fundamental language that we need to learn. And presence doesn't come just from our words. Even though I wrote a book about love languages, ultimately the deepest and the most powerful language is the language of your energy. And when you're fully present and somebody feels your presence, it's coming more from your heart. It's coming more from your nervous system. It's not necessarily coming from your words. Energy is the loudest voice in the room. So when you practice this language, I wrote this book and gave a lot of verbal examples, a lot of, in a way, strategies, through verbal language to create more trust, safety, and connection. But ultimately, the energy that you give to each other, we send to each other, is what is going to help us to heal. And we heal in the container of trust, safety, and connection. So that's why I was called to write this book. So the cost of not being present, it sends the message to another person. It's a message that is a wound for many of us. When we are talking to a therapist or life coaches, and I have this conversation with a lot of my clients, we healing these wounds from our past that started with our caretakers, start with our mom or dad. And one of the wounds is our lack of connection. We lost connection. We lost our essence. Connection was disrupted. And we didn't feel seen, heard, loved. We didn't feel like we belonged anymore. So we create a lot of strategies. So we lost a deep sense of trust and connection very early age. And now, through close relationships, through deep connections, we have an ability to help each other to restore the connection. So what I'm trying to do with this book is to offer tools so you don't heal just when you are in the therapist office. You don't heal only if you're talking to me as a trauma-informed life coach. You don't heal only when you're doing deep meditations by yourself. You also heal with your beloveds, because as Dr. Gabor Mate said, we get hurt in relationships. We got hurt in relationships when we're children. And we're going to restore our essence in relationships. So many of us doing this work, this is one of the reasons we are only interested in truth, authentic relationships. So presence as a very important language connects us. It creates a bond. If I perceive that a friend sits with me in full presence, my nervous system relaxes and I feel a deep bond with that person. So again, it creates trust and safety, which is what we need in order to give ourselves permission to fully love and also feel safe to open our hearts and receive love. Because sometimes you can love through a lot of actions, but the question is your heart fully open? Open to give, and especially open to receive love. And that process of really opening our hearts requires safety, and trust. So if presence, as I spoke a few minutes earlier, if presence is a natural state of the heart, the question is not how can I become more present, as it's this thing outside of us that we need to learn new techniques and strategies. A more accurate question is, with the assumption that presence is a natural state of our heart, what causes us to lose the ability to be present? What is in the way of us being fully present? So I want you to think for a second how you're not present, for example, with yourself or with your beloveds. And this is not about feeling guilty. This is not about judgment. We all do it. This is a practice. And we live in a world that is constantly distracting us because of trauma or difficult experiences in the past, or anxiety or other forms of trauma in the body. We disassociate, meaning we leave our bodies. Disease is another form of taking us from this present moment. So let's just review a little bit here. What takes us from this present moment? Distractions, disassociations, distortions. Distortions meaning if I'm not fully present, that means I'm in my ego mind. And the ego, it's a memory bank of the past. And if I'm in the past and I'm, let's say, having coffee with you right now as my friend, if I'm in the past, I'm going to interpret everything that you say or do from my lenses of the past. That means I'm going to have a distorted interpretation of what you're saying or what you're doing. That's not being fully present. This is why presence is one of the highest forms of love language, because in the present, I choose to see you in the now. Not see you as you showed up a month ago. Let's say a month ago you did something that caused me some disappointment. And I see you now a month later with the thought of what you did a month ago. That's not being present. Being present would be, hey, I'm still feeling this in my body. I'm still kind of holding this grudge of a month ago. Can we talk about it? That's being present. But looking at somebody from the lens of disappointment because of what somebody did a month ago or a year ago, or judging that person because their actions of a year ago or even a week ago, that is not being present. And that I go into depth into this in the book. So let's speak about the reasons why we're not present. If presence is our natural state, why we're not able to be present most of the time, or why you have so much difficulty being in the present. So distractions, disassociation, distortions are one. They're the states of the mind. There's something going on in your thought process, in your belief system. It's your conditioning that keeps hijacking from the present moment. That is like being in the ego mind and not being in your heart. That's why these love languages are all about being in your heart center. And that takes practice, that takes intention, that takes devotion. That's what my whole book is about. The second aspect of why you might not be able to be present, or somebody you know is not present with you, is the inability to sit with somebody's pain, or the inability to sit with your own pain. So let's talk about the self first. If you cannot be fully present because all these languages are going to be mastered by you being with yourself first, you can't master presence with somebody until you can master you being fully present with yourself. So what could get in the way of you being fully present with yourself? Pain. If I ask you to sit for 10 minutes to just do some breath work, and you start feeling this sense of sadness, anger, or anxiety, which is really a physiology of fear, so you're scared. If you don't know how to sit with those emotions, let's just call your pain, you're going to be distracted and you're going to look for something to do, or you're going to sit and breathe for 10 minutes, but your head is going to be somewhere else. that is time traveling. You're in the future, you're no longer in the present. So to be fully present, you need to have the ability to be with whatever is rising for you right now. So inability to sit with your pain will cause also inability to sit with somebody else's pain. I have my clients complain all the time about relationships with their partners or friends sometimes, that they want to be vulnerable, they want to share what they're going through, but they'll say to me, but my wife won't sit with me and pay attention. She will talk about something else, or she will judge me, or she'll try to fix me. That's because the person doesn't have the ability to sit with their pain, therefore they can't sit with your pain. So that's the second reason that why somebody, or why you cannot be fully present. Third reason, and there's no order here, because if I was going to talk about order, I will talk about this third reason, which is lifestyle. Poor diet, poor sleep, not enough exercise, not breathing properly. So if you have a diet that is filled with junk food, meaning sugar and saturated fats, bad fats, or you go many hours without eating any food, you don't sleep well, meaning your nervous system is not regulating. Your nervous system is in a state of stress because of poor nutrition. You might be eating a lot, but if it's not real food, you're not getting proper nutrition. And that affects the physiology of your brain. It affects the physiology of your gut. And if your gut is not healthy, it's going to affect your brain. So lifestyle plays a huge role in this. So much so that many people can heal themselves. They can heal their anxiety. They can heal their depression. They can heal autoimmune diseases simply by changing their diet completely and focus on sleep, breath work, exercise, proper amounts of exercise. So lifestyle plays a huge role here. If you don't have a good plan, a good self-care that address hydration, diet, sleep, exercise, and breath, that is going to affect your ability to be present. So if you somebody that, like, you identify with this video right now and you telling yourself that you can't be present because you're all over the place, I would start with a simple physical body first. Not simple physical body, but I'll start with the simple strategies: hydration, diet, breath, exercise, and sleep or deep rest. Another reason you might not be able to be present is if you carrying a lot of trauma in your body. In the trauma world, we call this complex PTSD. Complex PTSD is it's not a diagnosis. It's simply a label that says you might be carrying a lot of trauma from your childhood. Either there's abuse, neglect, parents with drug addiction, parents that maybe were completely absent because they had addictions, or there's death in the family. Any form of deep trauma in childhood, if you haven't done the work, creates what's called complex PTSD. And that leaves your system in stress, in survival, 100% of the time. So if you find yourself in a constant state of vigilance, and you can't trust people, you can't relax, you have hard time developing close relationships, I would highly recommend that you talk to somebody about that. Find a trauma-informed therapist that understands complex PTSD, or have a conversation with me and I can send you to the right direction. But if there's a lot of unresolved trauma in your body, that is enough to hijack you from the present moment. And it won't matter how well you eat, how much clean water you drink, how much you even sleep. And usually if you have complex PTSD, most likely you have difficult getting good night of sleep, because if your body is that stressed, you also have difficult sleeping. Another reason that can be related to that, and of course everything is related here, everything is always connected because we are a holistic system, is unmanaged stress. If you live in a constant state of overwhelm, in a constant state of being busy all the time, and not having playtime, which play is active rest. At play, your brain can completely rest. You go more into a parasympathetic, even though you can be in a sympathetic system too, because maybe you're exercising through play. You can be on both systems and you're still getting rest. It's called active rest when you're in a state of play. So unmanaged stress, if you're in a constant state of stress, that also means you're in a constant state of fear, which is also the constant state of unprocessed trauma, which connects to complex PTSD. But even if you didn't have major trauma in childhood, if you had done a lot of healing around that, if your mindset is not in the right place because you're constantly thinking about your future, you're constantly scared about what's going to happen with the world, what's going to happen with your health, what's going to happen with money, if you constantly worry, that puts you in a state of fear. And a mind that is in fear, it's a mind that cannot be in the present moment. Because think about it, if you're in fear, that means your brain is in survival. And in the brain, the brain doesn't know the difference between, oh, you are scared because you don't have enough money to pay your bills next month, or you're scared because you are in the jungle and you might be attacked by a wild animal. The brain doesn't know the difference. Stress is stress. The chemicals of stress are the same. The chemicals of fear are exactly the same. Doesn't matter what the fear is. So if your brain's in fear, it's a good idea to be vigilant and to be watching around when that wild animal is going to come, when that tree is going to move, when you might hear a roar of that lion. So it's very good idea to be hyper vigilant. But even in a hypervigilance, if you think about, there's a state of presence, because if you're not present, you might be devoured by a lion. So in the vigilance, there is actually a mixture of being in the moment and also watch what's happening. But that's not the case. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about presence as a love language, as a way to connect to each other. I mentioned the example because even the caveman in that situation was fully present. I'm going to pause here and I'm going on a little tangent here. A lot of people have anxiety. When I ask them if they would let go of their anxiety completely, if I was a wizard and I could remove their anxiety, would they give up their anxiety? And they say, no, because if I give up the anxiety, I'm not going to be as vigilant. I'm not going to be able to control as much, and I might miss something. I will miss an opportunity. I will miss something that could go wrong. And that's not true. Because actually, when you're fully present, if you can be aware of your environment and your full presence, you're actually going to be way more aware of what's going on in the present moment. Versus anxiety always puts your focus on the future. Now think about the caveman again. If the caveman is in the jungle, watching when the lion might be approaching. If the caveman is thinking about what might happen tomorrow, that is enough for the caveman to be devoured by a lion. So future thinking is actually not a state of smart protection. If you need to protect yourself, you'll be very smart to be fully in the present moment. I just want to make that side note here for those who think anxiety is helpful. Presence is still the thing that is going to help you the most. Anyway, back to love, trust, and connection. Another thing that might rob you from being in the present moment with somebody is an agenda. If you have an agenda, meaning you're more in your head because you want to get something out of that meeting, of that encounter, unconsciously you're going to manipulate that situation because you have an agenda. And an agenda is always a plan of the ego, because the ego is that part of us that says, what I'm going to get The heart is always fully present. The heart doesn't want to get anything besides just being here present and connecting and creating that flow of coherence. So if you sit with somebody with an agenda, you're not going to be able to be fully present. You're not going to be able to fully listen, because what is deep listening? Deep listening is when you're able to be so attuned and empty yourself and just receive what you're listening. If you're listening, thinking about what you're going to say next, you are not fully listening. This is a practice for myself, because a lot of times I'm thinking about what I'm going to say. And that's when we tend to interrupt each other, cut each other's in the mid-sentence, and I do myself. It's something that I'm still working on it. So if you have an agenda, that's going to rob you from the present moment. So I just share some reasons here of what gets in the way of us being fully present with each other. So if the intention, if you listen to this, I trust that your intention is to create deep connections, deep trust and safety with others, because there's tremendous love there in your heart. So let's talk about the solutions. What can we start doing to help us to go back to the essence of presence with each other? Number one, take a look on your physical health. Take a look on your diet, on your hydration, on your exercise. Are you exercising too much? You're not exercising enough? What's happening with your movement? Are you in pain? Physical pain, emotional pain? What is distracting you? After you check what's happened with your lifestyle, go to the mental body. So check the physical health. Now let's talk about mental health. What is constantly consuming your thinking brain? Are you thinking constantly about money? Are you thinking constantly about the state of the economy in our country? We're in an election year, for example. Are you constantly thinking about what might go wrong in your work? Are you constantly thinking about your health, that you're not feeling well, or you afraid that you might be sick? Whatever that is, what is going on with your mental state? Are you ruminating in something that is constantly taking you out of the present? I'm pointing these things first, and then I'm going to give some solutions. What about your emotional health? Are you able to verbalize? Are you able to sit and feel your emotions? Is there sadness, unresolved sadness from the past, unresolved hurt, unresolved anger? Is there resentment? Are you holding grudges? How are you feeling? If you really ask yourself where your emotional home is, what is it? Is it a state of fear, or is it a state of love? Is it a state of gratitude, or is it a state of overwhelm? Are you living in a place where you're accepting all as it is, or you're constantly fighting to change everything so you're never present? So check your emotional health. Where are you on your emotional health? And the fourth is the spiritual. What is your connection with spirit? And I'm not even speaking here necessarily about, number one, I'm not speaking about any religion. And I'm not even speaking about a form of God that you believe or not. Even though I believe in God, I know there's God. I call God what you might call a higher power, what you might call the quantum field, what you might call this higher intelligence, this force that is behind everything, that connects everything in our planet, in our universe. So what is your trust in something bigger than you? Do you have a trust? Do you have faith? Do you have faith that, there's so much you can do and control, and the rest you gotta allow to happen? So what is your spiritual connection? Do you think you are in control of everything? So these are good values, good beliefs to assess, because if you believe there's nothing out there, that everything is random, and you have total control of your life, that will rob you from the present moment, because it's not true. It's not true. We're not in control. In fact, we control very little, and that can be a completely different podcast. So just check in. What are your values and beliefs around spirituality? Because that will affect depression, will affect anxiety, will affect your healing. So now that I gave a summary about physical, mental, emotional, spiritual health, let's talk about some strategies, some tools that I can share with you right now in a video, in a podcast that can help you to be present. Breath is the talk of the day. It's what you're hearing a lot in podcasts. It's what you're hearing a lot in spiritual circles and neuroscience circles. And there's no other way. It's because breath is the most powerful tool that our biology offers us, that our life offers us. Because breath is the connection to the present moment. Breath is the bridge that is going to take you from your thinking mind, where, if your mind is the aspect of us that hijack us from the present moment, we can also use our minds to come back to the now, to the present moment. And that starts with an intention, having the intention to be present. So you can simply close your eyes for 3 minutes. 3 minutes, that's it. 3 minutes has the power to change your life for 5-6 hours. For 3 minutes, you sit and you do something that we call heart-brain coherence, where you just take few deep inhales for 3 minutes, deep inhales and longer exhales. So I'm going to just do here with you. If you do a deep inhale, let's say 5 seconds inhale, and then do a 8 seconds exhale. And you do that for 3 minutes. And you can do it in your own pace, your own rhythm. It doesn't have to be 5 seconds, 8 seconds. But try to do your exhales a little bit longer than your inhales. That is going to turn off your stress brain, your amygdala, your fear brain, and it's going to bring into your body, into your heart. And if you do that for 3 minutes, then there's an invitation there for you to continue sitting and maybe start exploring your emotions. So the second practice I would invite you, if you feel safe, after those 3 minutes doing some breath work, creating some coherence, calming your nervous system, grab a journal, grab your favorite pen, and write down, what is your state right now? What are you feeling? And just write it down. Maybe I feel agitated. I feel worried. I feel mad. I feel upset. I'm scared. I'm concerned about what's going to happen in our country. Whatever that is, just write it down. Just put it in the paper, and you're going to start noticing there's a difference between feelings and emotions. Like sadness, anger, I'm scared. Those are emotions. I'm in grief. I'm really missing my cat, my dog, or my ex-partner. That's grief. I wish my mom was here with me. That's grief. And there are also states of the mind. When you say I'm preoccupied, I'm worried, I'm concerned, I'm feeling alone, I'm not feeling seen. Those are just states of the mind. The mind, they're perceptions. So just know there's a difference between feelings and perceptions. But again, you can write everything, just to make it simple, write everything under the word I'm feeling this, I'm experiencing this. Just by putting that on a piece of paper, you are creating some movement, because those states in the body, those experiences, those emotions, they need to move. Emotions are not bad. Emotions are only bad when they get stuck in the body. And that's the core of every disease. No disease is only physical. There's 5% of disease that are fully genetic, but 95% of disease and illnesses, all chronic conditions, have a deep spiritual component. Because those emotions that get trapped in the body, they affect our spine, They affect our nerves, they affect the visceral system, they affect the flow of energy in those areas, and they're gonna make us sick eventually. So start verbalizing your emotions, at least to your journal, to yourself. And then can you sit, the third exercise I offer is just asking, what is the mind doing that is creating that experience in your body? So let's just say you wrote down, I'm really anxious. I have a lot of anxiety. I have a lot of nervous energy in my body. Then the third practice I'm going to offer here is ask, what is your mind doing? What are the thoughts? What are the perceptions, the beliefs that are creating those emotions and those experiences in your body? And write it down. I'm anxious because I might not have money to pay my taxes this year. Let's say that's the thought. Okay, then sit with that. And first question, bring up Byron Katie style. Is this true? Is this absolutely truth? I'm not going to have money. And you might say, well, it's not entirely true. I kind of have the money, but I don't want to spend. It's my saving account. You'll find an entire narrative in your mind. Write it down. And by doing all that, you might find that actually there is a solution. Or you make peace that you might not be able to pay your tax and you might have to call the IRS and make an agreement. So you go to a place of solution. You go to a place of acceptance. Because another form of anxiety which takes us from this present moment, because again we talk about presence, a deep love language, it's simply accepting that something is going, different than you thought. How many of you right now in your life can say, my life is not where I thought it would be? My hand is going up with you. Most of my friends will raise their hands right now. Many of us thought we'll be married. Many of us thought we'll have more money. Many of us thought we'll be living in a bigger house, or our careers will be in a different state. So part of being present is accepting things as they are. And acceptance doesn't mean I'm not going to make changes. In fact, radical acceptance is another love language in my book that I'm going to speak about on another podcast. So let's just review these three strategies that I share with you to start bringing you to full presence in your body and full presence with others. Number one, breath work. Practice breath work. Breath is the bridge that brings us to the present moment. In the present moment, there is no anxiety. In the present moment, there is no stress. Even though you might be experiencing some anxiety in this present moment, you only experience anxiety because your thoughts are about something in the future. So your body might be here, but your thoughts are in the future. So the breath brings everything to the present moment. And then in the present moment, you can connect with the second strategy, which is what emotions are present in your body right now. Learn to feel. And if you don't feel safe to do this emotional part, work with a therapist or work with a coach like myself or somebody that you trust. And third strategy, write it down. What are the beliefs and thoughts or narratives that you keep ruminating on that are creating this experience in your body? Thoughts will create emotions and the emotions will feed the thoughts. So you can get caught in a vicious cycle. But the beauty is you can also get caught in a beautiful cycle, a state of gratitude. I'm so grateful that I have this time to create this video, to connect with you through this video, through this podcast, to maybe offer a nugget that can really help you to make your relationships richer. I'm so grateful that I have a healthy brain that can study all these books around me, stay up to date with the neuroscience, that my body's healthy and I could go for a run this morning, so I had the energy, a clear brain, clear mind to create this content for you. So when I get in a state of gratitude, I have energy. So the thinking and the feeling can also create beautiful cycles, and that happens with presence. So again, I'm going to repeat this. Presence is one of the highest forms of love. One of the highest forms of love expression. When you give your full attention to somebody, And you just sit. You don't need to fix. Remove your agenda. There's no need to fix, to change anyone if you simply sit in presence and you connect with your heart. And the language of the heart and the presence is also compassion, empathy. There's nothing to fix because there's nothing broken. And you simply offer that space for somebody. You will help others to heal. And because giving is receiving, when you're giving empathy, compassion, you're giving full presence to somebody, guess what? You're giving full presence back to yourself. Giving is receiving. It's like the infinity symbol. When you're giving, you're receiving at the same time. And when you leave that meeting, that encounter, that connection with a friend or spouse, your partner, you feel a tremendous sense of fulfillment because you gave one of the most precious gifts to somebody. Your energy, your attention in the form of presence. So that's what I want to share with you, my friends. So practice. Let me know how it goes. Put comments, send me an email, alex@alexgilcoaching.com. I would love to hear your thoughts, your insights about what I just shared here. Let me know how these strategies might work for you. And if you're having hard time, you need more customized strategies, you're holding a lot of trauma in your body, you're stuck with a lot of limiting beliefs, book a call right now. I would love to help you. I would love to support you. And please help me and share this podcast, this video in your communities. Help me to spread the love. Help me to spread this education. They're powerful tools because all I care is that what I learn is shared back with my community. So by healing becomes your healing. So thank you so much and many blessings.